Well, it's almost time for the All-Star break this Major League Baseball season, so I thought now would be a pretty good time to start approaching some of the unopened baseball games that I have over in my pile behind me. Baseball video games and I have had a relationship for quite a long time, for me dating all the way back to 1986 when I got my Commodore 64, and I started to play a game called Hardball, which was actually a couple of years older than that. Playing that game, it's a very arcade-style baseball game, although there are some simulation aspects to it. I got into the game so much that I started to keep my own statistics in a notebook, and I kept that all the way through high school. Unfortunately, I wound up losing the notebook a couple of years after I graduated because I moved and I lost it somewhere. I was kind of sad about that too because that was a lot of work, hours and hours of work, many, many games played lost. But playing that game and my interest in that game helped me to learn how to track my own statistics and actually figure out what a batting average was, what a slugging percentage was, what an earned run average was, and the math involved in figuring those things out. So that was kind of cool, the fact that I picked that up. When I got my NES for Christmas in 1990, my love of baseball grew because I was playing games like the RBI Baseball series or my favorite baseball game for the system, Bad News Baseball. These games rely very much on being easy to pick up and play. We're not talking about a lot of simulation here, although the basic rules of baseball are intact. We're talking about just picking up the game and playing, hitting home runs on occasion, striking a few batters out, putting some runs on the board in bunches. Just a lot of fun to play without being too in-depth. Unfortunately, as the years have gone on, that arcade-style baseball game has faded into the past, and we're now strictly in simulation mode for the most part. Although we do have exceptions like Super Mega Baseball, MLB The Show has really been where the meat of the baseball experience has been on current generation consoles for the last few years. It is very simulation aspected, very difficult to pick up and play. Batting can be very frustrating, and to me, as an arcade baseball fan, it's just not very fun. But that is a topic for another time. We're not here to talk about MLB The Show. We are here to talk a little bit about World Series Baseball. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of World Series Baseball for the Genesis brand new to open up for this episode. Those are pretty expensive and hard to come across. But I mentioned World Series Baseball because that's the genesis, no pun intended, of where today's title comes in. Now, World Series Baseball implemented sports talk technology, and if you know me or if you've seen me talk about sports video games on Twitter, presentation's a pretty big deal. And commentary in a sports video game, especially back then during the 16-bit era, was just mind-blowing. Having running commentary for a baseball game, even if some of it was behind or if some of the lines were repeated, it blew me away. It was the coolest thing. You're talking about a guy, while he was growing up, any baseball experience that he had in terms of listening to games or watching games was all on the radio. So I was listening to radio commentary more than I was watching the games on TV. So hearing this commentary playing while I'm actually playing a sports game, that was really, really cool. In fact, when I picked up my Genesis, the reason that I bought it was because a demo of Joe Montana Sports Talk Football 93 was playing, and I knew at that point when I was hearing that commentary that that was a game and a system that I needed to own. So World Series Baseball was successful on the Genesis, and there were sequel after sequel. It did appear on the Saturn briefly, and then there were a couple of games for the Dreamcast. Now, I own one of those. The game's okay. It's not great or anything, but it's decent. It looked good for the time, and after some getting used to the controls, can be fun to play in spurts. But that would lead to World Series Baseball 2K3, which would happen after the Dreamcast folded and after Sega started dedicating its efforts to being a game developer and publisher for other consoles. Now, what's notable about World Series Baseball 2K3 is that it's the first baseball game from Sega to land on the system, and it's also the first game to implement the ESPN broadcast style. Now, it wasn't fully implemented yet. We wouldn't see that for another year, but still the logos were in place, the in-game graphics were in place. The commentary team would be different. The commentary team for this particular game is Ted Robinson, who is the Mets play-by-play guy, and Rex Hudler, who also made an appearance in MLB The Show, but then ran into some microphone troubles and was quickly gotten rid of. If we take a look at the back of the case here, by the way, that is Jason Giambi on the cover. Those of you who may or may not remember him, I believe he had a bit of an issue with steroids, but that's a different topic. So on the back here, they call this King of Diamonds, very appropriate because baseball takes place on a diamond. Just going to take a look at some of the things that the game offers here, or at least some of the promises. The man with the golden gloves, so defense very important in this game. Scale the wall to take away would-be home runs and snare line drives with an all-new jump button. Scores of new double play animations let you turn two faster than you can say 6-4-3, so that's shortstop to second base to first base for those of you keeping score at home. Flash enough leather and you could even win the coveted Rawlings Gold Glove Award. That's kind of cool and adds some authenticity to the game. Back in the day, take the field to classic yards like the Polo Grounds, Forbes Field, and Shebe Park. Play as or against 25 Hall of Fame players featuring signature batting stances and pitching styles for Stan Musial, Willie Stargell, Raleigh Fingers, and more. Round out the retro theme with 3 throwback unis for every MLB team. Also a very cool addition. People like throwbacks, and that's pretty neat to dress your team in a throwback uniform. A league of its own as we hear the 1 o'clock train rolling by. Gold standard gameplay goes deeper to give users what they asked for, including user-controlled leadoffs, power swings, drag bunts, pitcher cam, and improved cutoffs and replays and relays. True to the sports fan, authentic ESPN-style presentation brings you baseball tonight every night. That line right there hooked me when I bought this game for the very first time. Shake yourself. Rex, the Wonder Dog Huddler, color man for the 2002 World Champion Anaheim Angels, joins broadcast veteran Ted Robinson, play-by-play voice for the New York Mets, to bring you all the action from the booth. So, on paper at least, this sounds pretty cool. And to be honest, when I played this game when it first came out, I did enjoy it. There are sliders that you can adjust to make the game as easy or as difficult as you want to. It tends to be a little more simulation aspected, so if you're more of an arcade player like me, you really have to mess with the sliders to get to where you want, but sometimes that can make the game a little too easy, and it can turn into a slugfest rather than a legitimate baseball game. But the experience is completely customizable, so if you do buy this game, it's up to you to create the experience that you want. So before we go ahead and open this up on camera, we can take a look and see that we do have the security seal at the top here. This is from 2003, so this game turns 15 years old this year. So without further ado, because I've been talking long enough, let's go ahead and get this guy open. And I'm going to try and do this on camera so that you can see. Here we go. Sorry about that. I keep hitting the microphone. I don't mean to. So we're going to pull the plastic off just like that. I love it when it slides off like that. Makes things a lot easier for me. So we'll throw that away. And we're going to try and take the security label off without cracking it. And I do need to make sure that I open the case first before showing it to the camera, just to make sure that if the disc is unseated that it doesn't fall out. And I'm glad I'm doing that, although everything is fine here. So when we open this up, I'm going to take this out for just a minute. You can see here that we have the instruction manual, which is pretty thick from what I can feel, and also the disc right over here. So if we take a look at the instruction manual, as we do on each episode of Unsealed, the manual is 48 pages in length. And unfortunately, it is black and white. There is no color here, but that's okay. So that's an example of what it might look like. There are definitely some controls to get used to. There's create a player as well, which is kind of nice. Playing a season or playoffs. Franchise mode is here, so you can play up to a full 162-game season. So there's plenty here to take in and digest if you happen to own this game. Just scanning it because I haven't played 2K3 in a long time. There's off-season stuff here. Big League Challenge. Oh, okay. Big League Challenge invites 8 of the top home run hitters in the major leagues to compete to see who's really king of the swing. So it's basically a home run derby. There's also a Sega Sports Challenge where you could log in online. So that's pretty neat. And if you take a look on the back here, it's the entire 2K3 lineup. We have NCAA College Basketball 2K3, NFL 2K3, NBA 2K3 with the answer, Allen Iverson, right there in the center. NCAA 2K3 for college football, and NHL 2K3, which we've covered on this program. So that's pretty neat. At least I think it is. We also have the typical Sega product registration form, which is this guy right here. And there's no postage necessary if you mail this in the U.S. That's pretty nice. And we've talked about this product registration card before, so I'm not really going to go into that in too much detail this time. This was the first of the Sega Sports Baseball games. There would be not 2, but 3 more that would be, well, really 2 more that would carry the ESPN license, and then 3 more that were really notable before things started to shift. And we are going to open all of those over the course of the next few programs as we lead up to the All-Star break. So I'm hoping you're a baseball fan. If you are, you'll be able to check me out opening these games. And if not, I'll try and share some of my memories of the games and talk about why I believe that they were so important. But this is important because it's the first. This is the one that kind of got the baseball game rolling on the PS2. And it would wind up being a battle between 2 pretty prominent companies, Sega Sports and Electronic Arts. Big surprise in that these 2 companies will be butting heads once again. First with the NFL series, then with the NBA series, 2K versus Live, and now with your baseball games with the 2K series versus the MVP series. Wow, I don't know why we're talking about that. Thanks, Siri. So, that is... Oh, gosh, stop talking, Siri. It's okay. Thank you. So that is a look at World Series Baseball 2K3. Next up will be another game in this series. It will be ESPN Major League Baseball, and we'll talk more about the series then. Until then, thanks for watching this episode. I really do appreciate everybody. If you are out and about this weekend, being Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, and Sunday the 15th, I'm going to be at Connecticut, which is at the Connecticut Convention Center in Hartford, Connecticut, representing Retro World Expo, and I believe that we're going to be doing a Nintendo World Championships Challenge. So if you're in that area, come on by and say hello, whether it's just because you know me from the YouTube channel or whether it's because you're going to be going to Retro World Expo. Either way, I'd love to meet you. Thanks again for watching this episode of Unsealed. Really do appreciate that. I promise next time Siri won't be so loud. We'll talk soon. Until then, see ya.